Hamburg stood along the lower Elbe River, roughly 100 kilometers from the North Sea trading routes. The Alster and Elbe waterways shaped movement, commerce, and urban organization throughout 19th-century Hamburg society. Its river geography allowed inland and maritime traffic to converge at one important northern European commercial center. By 1840, Hamburg remained a sovereign free and Hanseatic city within the German Confederation political structure. Political independence distinguished Hamburg from neighboring territories ruled directly through larger dynastic administrative systems. Merchants and established civic elites held considerable influence over administration, finance, and institutional decision-making. Hamburg carried centuries of commercial traditions rooted in Hanseatic exchange and international maritime activity. The port linked northern Europe with Atlantic and continental trading networks through established shipping channels. Commercial activity supported warehouses, banking interests, transport occupations, and extensive merchant organizations throughout the city. Population growth increasingly transformed the city's social and physical structure during the early 19th century decades. Records indicate Hamburg held approximately 136,956 inhabitants during the year 1840. Economic opportunity attracted laborers, craftsmen, traders, and migrants into expanding urban districts near commercial areas. Social conditions reflected distinctions between wealthy merchant families and poorer residents living within denser quarters. Commercial success concentrated influence among established groups tied closely to trade and civic administration networks. Many workers depended on irregular labor linked directly to harbor conditions and changing economic activity. Narrow streets and older urban arrangements reflected centuries of development preceding industrial modernization efforts. Hamburg's built environment combined medieval structures with newer commercial spaces and expanding transportation facilities. Geography strongly influenced urban pressure because rivers and canals limited development patterns within central districts. Land remained valuable near transport routes, where commercial activity concentrated around the harbor economy. Economic competition increased pressure for urban adaptation as trade networks continued changing during this period. Political discussions across German territories also influenced debates concerning representation and governmental reform. Events during the late 1840s increasingly connected Hamburg to broader developments unfolding across German states. Pressure for political participation emerged alongside social concerns regarding rights and constitutional arrangements. Tensions gradually appeared between traditional governing structures and reform movements seeking broader representation. These developments reflected wider European discussions regarding constitutional governance and civic participation. Hamburg nevertheless retained institutional traditions emphasizing civic independence and local administrative authority. The city's political position created both flexibility and tension within broader regional developments. Its economic success relied heavily upon stable trade conditions and uninterrupted commercial movement. Disruption affecting transport routes could produce immediate consequences for labor and merchant activity alike. Hamburg's economy therefore remained unusually vulnerable to sudden urban or commercial interruptions. That vulnerability became evident during a defining event beginning during May of 1842. The Great Fire began during early May within the Dijkstraat area of central Hamburg. The fire expanded rapidly across dense urban sections and continued burning for several days. It lasted from early May 5th until May 8th before authorities gained effective control. Large portions of the historic inner city suffered destruction during the disaster. Roughly one-third of central Hamburg buildings were ultimately destroyed by the fire. 51 people lost their lives according to documented historical accounts of the catastrophe. Approximately 20,000 residents became homeless following the extensive urban destruction caused by flames. Churches, residences, and important civic structures disappeared within areas consumed by sustained fire. The scale of destruction represented a major turning point within Hamburg's 19th century development. Economic losses extended beyond buildings and affected commerce, employment, and administrative functioning. Commercial activity faced immediate disruption because damaged districts included critical areas of urban operation. Insurance institutions experienced severe pressure after claims connected with widespread property destruction increased. International attention followed because reports and eyewitness accounts circulated widely beyond Hamburg itself. The disaster also produced broader questions regarding urban planning and municipal preparedness. Authorities recognized that older spatial arrangements created conditions supporting dangerous fire expansion patterns. Dense construction and narrow routes complicated movement and emergency responses during critical periods. Urban geography therefore contributed directly to the severity, and spread of destruction. Reconstruction planning soon emerged as one of Hamburg's largest civic undertakings of the century. Government institutions and civic authorities faced decisions with lasting structural consequences. Traditional layouts increasingly appeared incompatible with commercial expansion and population pressures. Rebuilding efforts offered opportunities for broader urban redesign rather than simple replacement activity. Officials considered transportation efficiency, public safety, and administrative functionality during planning discussions. Institutional responses reflected practical concerns instead of symbolic political gestures. The fire altered expectations regarding how cities should address infrastructure and urban organization. Reconstruction eventually extended over many years beyond the immediate aftermath period. Changes introduced after the disaster reflected long-term administrative and economic calculations. Hamburg increasingly viewed urban planning as directly connected with commercial competitiveness and civic stability. This represented an important political consequence emerging from a disaster originally viewed as localized destruction. Economic recovery required confidence among merchants, investors, and transport interests connected with trade systems. The city therefore pursued reconstruction with attention toward restoring both practical and commercial functions. Geographic realities remained central because transport access determined economic effectiveness across urban districts. Port activity still formed the foundation supporting employment and broader patterns of urban life. Political authority also faced expectations regarding competence and institutional reliability after the catastrophe. The disaster strengthened arguments favoring administrative modernization and improved public systems. New thinking increasingly linked civic planning with economic resilience and long-term urban sustainability. These developments influenced Hamburg's direction beyond immediate reconstruction requirements. The Great Fire therefore represented more than physical destruction within the city center. It transformed discussions concerning governance, urban structure, and economic continuity during subsequent decades. Its consequences reached institutions responsible for shaping Hamburg's evolving civic identity and future development. The city entered a transitional midpoint where recovery and modernization became increasingly interconnected processes. Hamburg now stood between older commercial traditions and emerging forms of 19th-century urban transformation. During the 1850s, Hamburg continued reconstruction, while adapting to broader economic and political transformations across German territories. Urban rebuilding increasingly introduced wider streets, revised layouts, and infrastructure intended to support safer commercial activity. Geography remained decisive, because river access along the Elbe continued directing trade patterns and economic priorities. Harbor functions expanded alongside changing industrial demands emerging across northern Europe during the middle 19th century. Steam technology increasingly altered transportation systems and accelerated movement between regional and international commercial destinations. Railway development gradually strengthened Hamburg's connection with inland territories and expanding industrial markets across German regions. Economic restructuring created new opportunities, while exposing traditional occupations to changing patterns of competition and labor. Population growth continued as workers and migrants entered districts surrounding commercial and industrial activity. Social consequences emerged because expansion often intensified crowding and unequal living conditions across urban neighborhoods. Political conditions also changed after creation of the German Customs Union, increasingly transformed economic relationships. Hamburg initially remained outside the Zollverein structure to preserve commercial independence and free trading interests. Merchant leaders defended this position because unrestricted trade represented a central foundation of local prosperity. During subsequent decades, industrial growth and regional integration increasingly challenged older economic arrangements. Institutional adaptation became necessary as modernization reshaped administration, transportation, and commercial organization. By the late 19th century midpoint, Hamburg increasingly represented a city balancing autonomy with broader transformation pressures.